Hi, very good evening to everyone. I have to fill between finance minister. It's a tall task, but I'll try to keep you engaged. My topic is India, the land of opportunities. It's a very difficult topic nowadays because almost everyone is fairly positive about India. Let me still try to take you through what is changing in India. If we look at since independence, actually we are an underperformer. Almost all of our peers have outperformed us by a margin. In 47, we were at par with Japan in per capita GDP. In 60s, we were at par with per capita GDP with South Korea. In 80s, we were at par with China. Today, all those countries are way ahead of us. So clearly, something we did was not correct. We undoubtedly moved forward over 1947, but others jumped over us. Now, what is changing? Pictorially, I think this was pre-1947 India. Underdeveloped, poor, and hopefully tomorrow's India will be like this. These are the pictures from Bansilal Pet Stepwell in Secunderabad, Telangana. With the community effort, what was a garbage tank has now become a tourist spot. Thank you. I wouldn't say Indian economy has transited completely to the right-hand picture, but it is moving in that direction. What are the changes happening in our economy? The first change which has happened is that our inflation is moving from high inflation to moderate inflation. In the past, Hindi movies used to have songs like Mehngai Maar Gayi, or the villain was invariably a food black marketeer. Tell me one last movie where you saw that kind of song or a villain. In fact, in last 16 out of 18 months, Indian inflation is lower than American inflation. This had never ever happened in our history. And now we are seeing lower inflation than American consumer. That's the change. We are transiting from FX shortage to FX surplus. Thanks to foreign direct investment, large causes because of people over here, thanks to remittances, and thanks to services exports. Again, thanks to people from this city. In 90, we had to pledge coal to raise foreign exchange resources. Today, we are the 5th largest FX holder in the world. And kindly take a moment to notice the third country. A lot of their reserve also has contribution from Indians. One day, that money will come back. We are moving from infrastructure deficiency to infrastructure availability. At least for today, I traveled from Bangalore airport to my office in half an hour. At least for today, that's the caveat. This infrastructure deficiency is happening through better allocation and better execution. Pre-1990, we always read how growth was getting curtailed because of lack of infrastructure. Now, we are making this equation right, 67 equal to 10. What infrastructure was built between 47 to 2013 is almost getting built between 2014 to 2024. Our coal production has jumped from 610 million tons to 892 million tons. Should cross next year more than a billion ton. Power capacity moving from 223 gigawatt to about 435 gigawatt with 412 under pocket. Power production moving from 970 billion units to 1600 billion units. Electrification of railway track from 21,000 kilometers to 59,000 kilometers. Would you believe that now India has more electrified railway tracks than United States of America? Highways, 82,000 kilometers to 165,000 kilometers. And I can make this statement today because the government's official target is even higher than this. This is discounted number. Airports from 70 to 141. Next year we should be touching 200. Metro from 5 cities with 248 kilometers of railway track. We are now at 27 cities with 846 kilometers of railway track. Next year's number may not get achieved next year and it may happen after a year or two. But we'll have about 1,837 kilometers of railway track, which will take us ahead of United States of America in metro rail. America is 3 times bigger than us, but we'll have more metro railway tracks than America. Our port capacity is up from 1,400 million metric tons to 2,800 million metric tons. Effectively, we can now legitimately say that our infrastructure is being made available. There are some bottlenecks in urban infrastructure, but outside of urban India, infrastructure is rapidly improving. We are moving from imports to make in India. There was a time when we had to import high-speed locomotives. Today, we are making entire Vande Bharat train. This magic has to move to many other industries, like we have done it in mobile handset, and like we have done it in toys. I don't remember exactly the name, but there is little further up Bangalore, a place where you get fantastic wooden furniture and wooden toys. Now, I believe that place is also exporting toys and contributing into that number. This magic has to move to many other industries. We are moving from kind of hidden NPAs to having limited or low NPAs. Just in 2013-14, we had to mandate PSU banks not to do lending business because NPAs were running sky high and they were not fully provided for. Today, we have lower NPAs in almost 25 years. The health of our banking system can be reflected in just this one slide. All of us know about Silicon Valley Bank, what happened over there. And some people had a smile on their face because their money was probably parked in that bank. But the beauty was that there was a small bank in Maharashtra called Shamrao Vittal Cooperative Bank. They had to announce, they had to announce that this SVB is not us, it is some bank in America. This is truly an underdog delivering against the giant. 16th largest American bank's brand is not good enough for my cooperative bank. इससे अच्छा ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन कहाँ पे हो सकता है? We are actually moving from low growth to higher growth. If you look at G5 countries like Japan, Germany, UK, France, Italy, over last 2 decades, they haven't grown relative to America. India and China are 2 other nations which have grown relative to America. China's growth is far higher than us, but hopefully in next 2 decades will outperform China as a relative growth to America. In fact, we are growing relative to our emerging market peers. In 2008, we were 1/3 of Brazil and Russian GDP. Guess what it is today? We are now more than combined GDP of Brazil and Russia put together. In fact, 6 out of top 10 fastest growing cities of the world are in India last year. Your city was one of them, number 3 globally in terms of fastest growth. And what is more important is, there are few cities in India, if they disclose what they are actually doing, 10 out of 10 fastest growing cities will be in India. People who laughed at this comment know which cities I am talking about. In fact, we are also moving from imprudence to prudence. Look at the place where the world is. We are one of the few countries in the world which has improved its debt to GDP ratio from subprime crisis to COVID crisis. There is no other major economy in the entire world whose debt to GDP ratio has improved between these 2 crises. India is the only major economy. That's the kind of prudence we have. The deleverage has happened at your and mine, that is household level. It has happened at corporate India level. And obviously government has borrowed money in order to fund COVID crisis. But collectively, as a country, our debt to GDP ratio today is lower than what it was in 2008. This feat is unparalleled in economic history of world. In some sense, what is happening is that we are moving from our yesterday to today to tomorrow. For 1800 years, India and China were number 1 or number 2 economy in the world. Colonization happened. Britishers looted us royally. And for 200 years, we had zero growth. What was our GDP in 1800 remained almost in 1947. Now, we are going back where we belonged. The state from where I come from, Maharashtra, today, Maharashtra's GDP is at the same level as whole of India, including Maharashtra's GDP, was in 2005. In 17 years, Maharashtra has reached where whole of India was there yesterday. 2001, UP and Uttarakhand were combined. Today's UP and Uttarakhand combined are at the same level of GDP which whole of India was in 2001. And 3 other states, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, are where India was in 2000. If all of us continue to work as hard as last 20 years, can these 6 states create today's India in next 15, 20, 25 years? This is the story of India. we will see 5 India of today's size in next 15, 20 or 25 years in just these 6 states. And other states are also doing well. This is the story of India. Forget the states and corporate India. Look at even farmer of India. And Amul might not be politically correct word to use in Karnataka. But please bear with me. It is India's largest FMCG company with 61,000 crore turnover. It is now aiming to be world's largest FMCG company with $220 billion turnover in 2047. When a company makes this kind of audacious statement, the first reaction of a fund manager is that this is bullshit. But this is Amul. It has created miracle. In 1970, India was an importer of milk because our milk production was 1/6 of European milk production. We had to import milk and milk products from small countries like New Zealand and Scandinavian nations. Thanks to Amul, Nandini and many other cooperative societies, today India's milk production is 150% of Europe's milk production. We are now the world's largest milk producer. If Amul can make a milk importer nation to the world's largest milk producer, why wouldn't it go from being India's largest FMCG company to world's largest FMCG company? If this miracle is not good enough, let me talk about another miracle which many of you may not be aware of. Now, statutory warning, this is in lighter vein, but bear with me. How many of you are football friend? Thank you. Who won the last World Cup football? Argentina. Whom will you give credit to Argentina's football World Cup win? Well, Lionel Messi. What a stupid question. But Lionel Messi played for Argentina in many football World Cups. He was more younger, more fitter, more agile, and yet he didn't win the World Cup. What worked this year? The credit goes to Amul. No, he was not eating Amul Maska. Amul was an official sponsor of Argentinian football team. When 2 crore farmers pray for you, sir, even Messi can make Argentina win the World Cup football. As I mentioned, this is in lighter vein, but this is the miracle Amul is capable of making. When Amul earns $100, they give $85 to their members. The next best cooperative society globally gives 45% to their members. There is no cooperative society globally which can compete with Amul's model. And which is why, who knows, in 2047, many of us will be ordering Amul Maska Pav Bhaji in rest of the world. Have we achieved everything? Answer is clearly no. There are few things which we still have to do. One, we have to move from Videshi to Swadeshi. Mahatma Gandhi told us, be Indian, buy Indian. But after he left us, we started believing in be Indian, buy Chinese. Our trade deficit with China is almost in excess of $100 billion. over last 7-8 years, we have imported, or our trade deficit with China is almost $450 billion. Someday, if there is a war between India and China, the Chinese army will be proudly carrying banner sponsored by Indians. How do we replace some of those unwanted items through Swadeshi rather than Videshi? That will determine whether this transformation is complete or not. The second challenge for us is from inequality to equality. Undoubtedly, there is uneven recovery in Indian economy. The rich and upper middle class is benefiting. The poor and lower middle class is not participating as much as they should. We are the fastest growing major economy in the world, but our consumption remains pre-COVID trend line. Bottom 20% of population had 6% share in consumption. It came down to 3%, now it is 4.5%. The numbers would have improved in recent times. This is slightly outdated. But this number should be in double digit rather than high single digit. Let me give you 2 data points. In the first 11 months of this year, non-suburban railway traffic is down 29%. That means 30 lakh passengers are taking lesser railway trips than last year in first 11 months of this year. Clearly, there is challenge at the bottom of pyramid. This is very interesting data. Half of our IIP hasn't grown above population growth for last 10 years. Let me repeat, for last 10 years, half of our IIP data hasn't moved beyond population growth. Now there are products like tobacco where degrowth is justified and necessary. But there are so many other items where the volume growth is just in line with population growth, which means per capita availability hasn't improved. Clearly, there is a need to ensure that benefits of growth is widespread. The growth has to be inclusive. Otherwise, it won't be sustainable. Fortunately, government is running world's largest food aid program, providing free ration to almost 80 crore Indians. What will be the risk? I think the only risk for Indian growth story is risk of self-goal. The best example of that is a place called Singur in West Bengal. India's most respected business house Tatas were trying to set up their automobile plant. They struggled for 5 years, couldn't set up the plant. Today, when you go to Singur, it is underdeveloped. People who worked hard to throw out Tatas are now praying that Tata should come back. The opposite side is Sanand. Apparently, Chief Minister of Gujarat then sent SMS Suswagatam or welcome to the chairman of Tata Group. And that's how they moved to Sanand. In 18 months, Tata Nano started rolling out. Today, when you go to Sanand, it hasn't become Singapore yet. But there is jobs, there is growth, there is development, there is modern lifestyle. The choice for India is to either go towards Sanand model. If that happens, there is growth for everyone. Or we can go towards Singur model, which will be probably degrowing. Fortunately today, even in West Bengal, we are seeing major improvement in industrial activity. This gives me confidence that hopefully from here onwards, India will be following Sanand model, and hence all of us can remain bullish about India. The opportunity of Sanand model is in China plus one. For geopolitical reasons, most global companies are looking to diversify their sourcing base out of China. We have so far made a good beginning where about 14% of companies moving out of China are coming to India. Samsung runs world's single largest location mobile handset factory in India. Apple's story is well known with $7 billion exports last year. But look at Vietnam. They get 27% of companies, much more than India. This is something which we had to capture. Samsung came to India long before they looked at Vietnam. Today they produce fridge, TV, AC, mobile phones in India. They make in India to sell in India. They are an unlisted company, but undoubtedly they are India's largest consumer durable company. The turnover is about $10-12 billion. They went to Vietnam much later after India. They make in Vietnam to sell all over the world. Today, the turnover in Vietnam is in excess of $65 billion. Vietnam's size is 1/10 of India, and Samsung is 5 times bigger in Vietnam. They contribute almost 1/4 of GDP to Vietnam. This is the opportunity or a self-goal which we scored when Samsung came to India. Now we have to capture it. Not only Samsung, but every other company, we have to bring it to India. If we are successful in bringing China plus one to India, that will create well-paying jobs. Look at the amount of contract workers jobs we have created. They are jobs but not necessarily well-paying. If I get global companies to outsource their activities in India, we will be able to create well-paying jobs, which in turn will support bottom of pyramid, which in turn will create virtuous cycle of growth. We also need to make our manufacturing globally competitive. Less than 20% of our factories employ more than 100 workers. This number has to go up substantially higher. Can my existing small, medium, micro enterprises do that? Quite unlikely, which is where China plus one is required. We also need to make one change. That is our savings pattern. Indians collectively have imported 373 billion of gold in last 21 years on a net basis. This is official import. All of us know that there is gold smuggling because what you get for $100 in Dubai is worth $118 in India. All of you also have noticed that when people go to Middle East or Singapore, their net weight is 50 kg, but when they return, they are 55 kg. They are all loaded with jewelry and they all look like the famous Hindi musician. The money which Indians have spent on import of gold, bulk of which is lying in our safe deposit locker or tijori, is more than what foreign direct investment we have received. If we had not spent money on import of gold, there was no need for us to get any foreign direct investment. We are like a patient which wants to have good health, but instead of taking blood transfusion, is giving blood donation. We need to change our savings pattern so our savings go in funding our own entrepreneurs. The extent of gold in India, no one knows. Someday, if you open Sri Padmanabha Swami temple, we'll actually know how much gold we are holding. What will be the risk and reward of this? Well, the reward is this. Maruti Suzuki came to India in 1980. It got listed on Indian Stock Exchange in 2003. And over the next 20 years, Maruti has delivered world-beating performance. It has delivered more return in US dollar terms than all the Japanese automobiles put together, Honda, Toyota, Nissan, Suzuki. It has delivered more return than American auto manufacturers, Ford and GM. You will notice that I have excluded Tesla. It has delivered more return than German automobiles company, Volkswagen and Mercedes. It has delivered more return than South Korea, Hyundai. This is the opportunity or reward for being in India. Today, Maruti sells more automobiles in India than what Suzuki sells worldwide. Over the next 20 years, you could figure out what will be the size of Maruti and what will be the size of Suzuki. However, when you operate in India, there are challenges. This is actually a camera grabbed from Maruti's factory in North India. Once in a while, leopard enters their factory. They have to shut down that part of the plant, call the jungle authorities, wildlife authorities, tranquilize the leopard, send it back to jungle and start making car. This excitement is not available in Japanese and German companies. It's only available in Indian automobile companies. When you operate in India, once in a while, leopard may come. But if you can tranquilize the leopard, then you know the rewards. It's world-beating performance. In fact, Maruti Suzuki seems to have followed this Japanese proverb. If you do not enter the tiger's cave, you will not catch its cub. Thoda risk, bahut sara reward. That is the story of India. This is one video which I have got. If we can play this video, it talks about India's transformation in Hindi far better than what I have narrated. Can we please play this video? It won't come, no problem. But this video is of Shankar Mahadevan. If you do a Google search, Shankar Mahadevan India transformation, you should be able to get that video. Thank you so much.